Hello and welcome to Mad About Sports once again. As we are here after a long time to talk about football. Yeah, we've been talking a lot about cricket for the longest period of time. So yeah, we are back talking about Premier League and about what's going to be happening in the Premier League in game week 16 because a lot has happened over the last two game weeks. You can say so. Some real upshifts, some big upsets, and obviously we're going to be talking about all in depth. Antariksh joining me. Antariksh, 16 game weeks already, and you are seeing signs of who are the teams taking the pole positions and who are the newbies who are really thumping forward as well.
Absolutely. This is the time when the table sort of starts to take shape in its truest form, and we can see dust settling in, some visible patterns coming out, some teams faltering as usual after probably being like the elephant at the top of the tree, right? That
Yeah,
old saying. So those teams, we're seeing teams, some teams is resurgence year after year, grinding
yeah.
out results. Some of them which I keep a very close eye on. So yeah, yeah. I mean, it's nice, and such बताऊं, it didn't feel like 16 game weeks. It's almost like half the season. भाई पता
Yeah,
नहीं
I mean,
चला. I
on
mean,
your screen right now, we have the table as well. Now, as of things stand, Arsenal still are table toppers. Maybe you can say they've continued from where they left off the last season. It's so hard after the disappointment they had to face last season to continue the way they have done. It's phenomenal work under Arteta. And especially if you look at the recent games they played, right? You have to say the way in which he's deployed Kai Havertz, that confidence he's given him. And Declan Rice, no doubt, he's really proven that why he's the best CDM in the league at this point. And he's putting in a shift day in and day out. And number two, you have Liverpool, obviously. But let's talk about Arsenal to start with. What do you make of this team? I mean, it's been a phenomenal run so far.
I think they've become more of a, of course, without the title, a championship team, right? As we keep saying, last
Yeah.
season was all about football, the change in style, the change of flow, the change of the club, how they've now progressed into a direction wherein they're playing attacking football. Now, with the addition of Declan Rice, it almost feels like, it's like synonymous to what the club has taken a turn in, which was like that grit has been added into the team. It's not about like I give this peanut butter guy example. You have the crunchy one and you have the smooth one. So smooth is all like playing like butter, but then you have bits and chunks of peanut butter. That's where people like Declan Rice and Thomas Partey come into the play. And I don't think they're playing the best football. They played the some of the best football I've ever seen last season, in which the way they were flowing. This season, it's more result oriented, which is if you add the style of play in it, it becomes a lethal combination. We've seen City do that over the years, right? They've maintained a good style of play for the past 5, 6 years, but they've
Yeah.
added that knack of grinding out results whenever they need. So that's pretty good. That's good signs for Arsenal. In 15 games with 2, 3 big contenders, unke piche, they're still leading the line and from a long, long time now. So good signs.
I mean, if you look at that table right now, you can see not a lot of points separating the top six. It's
Yeah.
a pact, right? A couple of games here and there, and it could completely change the shape of the top six because
Yeah.
Newcastle, United, everybody's there and thereabouts. I think one of the biggest results of this week was when Newcastle went down to Everton. A lot of people did not expect that happening, but once again, that's Premier League for you. You have to expect this kind of results happening. But the most impressive one among the top four is Aston Villa. Big results against City, and they made City look like they are the old Aston Villa or something of that sort. 22 shots in that game. Pep had no answers, and to add to all that, the way in which they played that game out, you have to say that was some effort from Unai Emery's men.
Absolutely. I was shocked. Like the two shots and the two shots on target. They came in the space of what, 10 seconds? That's it.
Yeah,
And that is what City did. I have never seen Pep Guardiola like that. I mean, we've seen the opposite happening almost
yeah,
every game that he has managed City with.
yeah,
But to do that, I mean, wow, like Unai Emery, he's one genius, right? Like
yeah,
I just feel so bad for these kind of managers, right? Because amidst the glory of these trophies and everything, we just forget that these managers, some of them are master tacticians, right? And they
yeah,
just, if at all they're able to do it, crack it up in the big clubs. Or like
yeah,
if he had done something like this at Arsenal, maybe, he would have had a trophy. Because it's, let's be realistic, it's very hard for Aston Villa to land a trophy as big as the
yeah.
Premier League. But what he's doing right now, my God, He's on a 16 win streak, if I'm not wrong,
Yeah,
at home,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
so amazing. Like people need to get there's a difference between a win streak and a not losing streak, right? So
yeah.
he's gotten 16 wins in a row. It's not even a draw or anything, which is massive, which is
It's
just so
incredible. It's
amazing.
incredible to
It's
talk of.
incredible.
But
And again, 22 shots to two against City. You don't do City like that.
I mean,
You
it's
just
just
don't.
not that. Okay, you can say they parked the bus and played. It was not the case. They had close to
No.
45% possession of the ball. They pressed City. They used that width of the pitch a lot more, especially Leon Bailey on the left hand side. He was brilliant for them. And you have to say, one player's really added that composure in the midfield is Yuri Tillemans, who have really come into this team in this season. I mean, what a phenomenal player he has been with Leicester over the years. But this season, under Unai Emery, he's been rediscovering himself, and we all know the
Yeah.
talent this guy's gotten, but he's really fitting into that role beautifully with this team.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yuri Tielemans, we all knew, right? Like he was just extending his stay at Leicester, and if Leicester had to go down, he was probably one of the first players that was going to be picked out, and he was. And what a bargain he's been! I bargain bhi kya matlab free mein aaya, if I'm not wrong, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's just phenomenal what he's added. Douglas Luiz looks like a good version. McGinn,
yeah,
I always really like McGinn, but he now sort of feels that he's got a set role. Otherwise, he's like
yeah.
running all around the pitch. He was doing the dirty work, the creative
And
work,
I think
you know.
Babukar Kamara as well. This season,
Oh
last
yeah,
season he came into the team, but then this season he's taking that responsibility a lot more in the center of the park.
absolutely.
He's doing that. He's doing that cover shadow in front of the defense, and the defense has been brilliant. I mean, we've not spoken about defense enough, but we talk about managers right now. If you look at the number of goals scored this season, Aston Villa are right up there with most number of goals scored as well. So this is not a team who really plays defensive football. I mean, we can say, oh yeah, they're churning out results 1-0, 2-0. It's not the case. They've been scoring a lot of goals. And that's one of the reasons why they've gotten those results. And Unai Emery, his style is not the defensive style of Unai Emery. He's been more attacking. He knows that you can't survive in Premier League by playing the defensive style of football, because Premier League has taken the shift from here on. Now, that's one of the reasons why managers
Yes,
like
man.
Antonio Conte and the defensive managers have gone out of the window. And the more attacking approach, if you look at top 7 teams, all have an attacking manager mindset there, including Unai Emery recent past. We lost Antariksh slightly bit over there. As he joins back, as he will possibly join back soon. Yeah, Antariksh, you there? I think we just lost him. But yeah, just as we were talking about, if you look at the top 7 in that league, you can understand every manager has got an intent to go out there and score goals and win games and take the opposition on. Now, one of the most beautiful football this season has been played obviously by Tottenham Hotspurs. I mean, they have really set standards as well. Though they lost the last game, which was quite surprising, because last game week saw a lot of surprising results to an extent. But Tottenham Hotspurs has been one of those impressive teams. But if you look at that form, recent form, it doesn't look any good. That's also thanks to a lot of injuries they had to face, red cards, which has not really gone their way. But having said that, the result against City they got in a 3-all draw was phenomenal for them. An exciting game of football. And Postecoglou, he was been outstanding. He, as a manager, has given this Tottenham an identity to play football with. It's his first season, but certainly a season to remember for if you're a Spurs fan. And it gives them a lot of hopes. It gives them hopes that they can come back stronger come the next few seasons. If you give them the right signings, the right men out there, this team can do wonders. And that's definitely going to be one of the reasons why Tottenham Hotspurs is going to be one exciting team to deal with. Andres, I was just talking about Spurs all of a sudden, what do you think about Spurs under this manager? I mean, though their recent form is slightly iffy because of the injuries and the red cards, but as I was talking, the top 7 teams have all gotten managers with attacking intent, and that's what matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I heard you talking about Tottenham, and of course, he's probably been a social media sensation either end of the table. Once he's like the fans'
Yeah,
favorite, everyone loves him. The other part is he's being absolutely trolled the freak out. So that's of course, Premier League will teach him. Of course, he has sort of come out with some statements that are pretty bold to say the least. He's saying like, I hear managers all the time saying they cannot play attacking football. Just do it, mate. Just do it. So of course, Premier League. I mean, he will be taught by the likes of Crystal Palace, by the likes of Stoke in a rainy day, on a rainy day, right? he would be taught when he'd have probably 10 times the shots Stoke would have, and they'd still nick up 3 points from them.
Yeah,
So the Premier League would teach him, of course, but whatever he is, he's a very raw package, right? To go out toe to toe against City, 48% possession, 10 shots to 8, 8 to 10. Like, to just do that in itself is a big thing. And Pep Guardiola got faced with a challenge that he wasn't. And let's just remember, this is not his team right now. 2-3 years down the line, that'll be his team. I would hope, not as a rival, but just as an admirer of someone who loves to play good football, right? I would
yeah,
just hope that he doesn't go very bad, because the thing with these sort of high demanding coaches is, right, that he doesn't really care much about shape. Like someone,
mm,
I mean, of course he does care about shape, I don't mean it that way, but what I mean to say is, right, like Pep Guardiola would want men, behind the ball. He'd like tracking back. He is all about pressing. He would depress the opposition. He's kind of that. So if the players do turn off for a second, which we've seen with these modern players, they do sometimes, he'll
yeah,
just create so much space behind for people to run into. It's going to be abysmal. We saw when, I don't remember the opposition. We saw when Tottenham went 9 men. Tottenham
yeah.
went 2 men down, right? They went to nine
Nine
men.
men down.
They
They were
still
9 men
pressed.
down. I mean, it was
Yeah, yeah,
Chelsea.
exactly. They still pressed, and Chelsea obviously ran through them like, it was like
That,
an
yeah,
Amish
there were
rugby.
some stupid statements as well given to even if you go 9 men down, we're going to still attack. Well,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
bold, but at
But
times it
that
looked
doesn't
very
make sense, does it? Yeah, that doesn't make
doesn't make any
sense.
sense to me because
Yeah,
sometimes
exactly.
football you have to be dynamic in terms of your approach. You cannot go in with one intent. If you look some of the greatest of managers in situations, you have to adapt. And football is all about adaptability according to oppositions,
Absolutely.
according to situations, according to different phases of the games. Because you can't press for 90 minutes. Let's all be honest. You can press in triggers, but not for 90 minutes. No players can do it. Let's be very honest. So you need to understand the opposite, the momentum. A lot of factors come into play, and that's why I think some of the statements is just too naive of him. And I understand it's his first tenure as a Premier League manager, and he'll learn, as you mentioned, with time, and he'll get his signings as he wants. But it'll only be unfair if I don't talk about United here to start off with, to an United fan. What do you think, Antariksh? I mean, manager of the month, Eric Ten Hag; player of the month, Harry Maguire. Is it all good, or do you want more? Are you demanding more? Because a lot of things are not going right with Eric Ten Hag and media, and a
Yeah.
lot of uproar out there with Marcus Rashford and Eric Ten Hag, Jadon Sancho issue, obviously. A lot of things off the field is really affecting the club on the field, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a mixed bag. It's honestly a mixed bag to see right now. It's just that the competition in the Premier League is so high, and some people say that the standards have dropped, but I think the overall collective standards have risen so far that,
Yeah,
big teams are dropping points left, right, and center. And I don't think it's got to do with big teams not playing well. It's got to do with the likes of Aston Villa, the likes of Newcastle, now the likes of Bournemouth getting into form, the likes of
yeah, you're right. This
Everton,
is possibly one of the
even.
most competitive seasons we've had in last 5 to 6 years. I can't remember a season where 7 teams can defeat anybody
Absolutely.
on a given day.
Absolutely. And I can't believe how poor we've been this month. And I don't know how, we've landed the duo of the manager of month and the player of the month. And probably a defender getting player of the month is probably synonymous to how we've been this month. So I don't
Yeah.
know how that has happened, but I'm happy that it has happened nonetheless. And Eric Ten Hag has had a knack, recently last season as well, to get the points when it matters. So I just feel we went too down, this at the start of the season, and it might hurt us if we do end up doing well in the second part of the season. We would regret many of these droppings of points, and maybe we see Tottenham slipping, maybe Aston Villa come down a bit if they're overperforming. Maybe we see Liverpool's midfield or injuries catching up in something, and we might end up in a top three, top four kind of spot. Wherein then
Yeah.
we'll sort of think about, we dropped too many points at the start. So let's see. But I'm happy that we are at least somehow getting the results high. I don't really want to think too ahead, because I genuinely don't have anything positive in
But if you
terms of the
look
whole
with
grand
United,
tenure
it's been a
of
mixed
what
bag,
Ten
isn't
Hag
it?
is able
Because
to do.
I would ask you because after the Newcastle game, the outclash was big because United wasn't there in the game. They were not in the park. They were 11 men, but there was no certain attempt at all to win that game. The Newcastle game could have been easily a 4-0, 5-0 game for United. But after the
Absolutely.
Chelsea game, you can say it is slightly calmed down because the Chelsea has not been doing well themselves. But yeah, that win was very important if you look in the larger scheme of things, because that win will give them a lot of confidence heading into Bournemouth. How do you see it? Because it's the topsy-turvy season, as you mentioned, but still there are a lot of areas which you have to improve. Now, the clash which Varane has with ETH, or for that matter, Rashford is having with Eric Ten Hag, do you think he's become a bad player manager at this point? Because you can't blame players of this quality time in and time out. Varane is a five-time Champions League winner and a World Cup winner. He had this issue with Ronaldo. He had issue with Anthony, and even with Anthony still he's been the most favored guy. Sancho, Rashford now. How many players is he going to have issue with? Is he a bad player manager? He could be a great manager on the field, but a bad player manager.
Interesting point that you put out there. So, like, decoding the Chelsea thing first, I think it was the best performance of the season for us, right? Hands down, it was the best performance. But I wasn't satisfied at all, right? We were playing with Amrabat just behind the midfield line. We were so open. We were so open, right? There were no limits to how open we were. So I don't get about the fact that how we were so open. McTominay was sitting on the edge of the box. He was just there. And
Yeah,
if you play something like this against Liverpool or Spurs or Man City, we're going to be ripped apart. And it's
yeah,
just that Chelsea don't have the confidence to drive enough, to drive forward enough. That's why we probably messed up. So they messed up. Sorry. So it while it looked good, but they were like it was just that we were ultra aggressive and we were just going forward with no real plan of action. But we somehow ended up. So still okay. We at least did look threatening attacking wise. But as you talk about Ten Hag, right? No, I believe he's one of the best player managers, man managers out there. I believe he's not got an issue with Rashford, and you're right in stating that how many players you can't blame the quality, but that's where I blame them. I see yes, you can blame these quality, right? Rashford's 26. I don't care about what he does, up the field. Okay, he might have bad days, everyone. But I see him, right? I consider myself not to be a very technical watcher of football, right? I try to watch it, I try to decode it like a Pep Guardiola, but I don't consider myself. But I see him not making the runs, aggressive as well as defensive, which is the worst feeling possible as a fan. If you have a Mancunian, a Manc born and bred not doing the work, and he's just 26 now, seventh, eighth season into his Man United career, into his footballing career, you can't be doing that. You just
you're
can't.
right.
He's such a moments player. I just feel so sorry for him, right? Like the coaching he's been getting for the past 5 6 years, Oli, Jose, Van Gaal, it's just been too contrasting and stuff, and there's been no sort of dependability. And with dependability, I come to Varane. I don't think his performances have been in question. Yes, his performances have been in question, but not to the extent wherein he would be sitting out as the fourth choice. It's more about the fact, yaar, ki he's not dependable. You can't build a team around Varane, and that's where Real Madrid has done the best business, right? They've sold us, an injury-prone Varane like in a jiffy. That's why they did that. So it's got to do more with the fact that Martinez is already injured. We've had 10 injuries probably, and then the one place wherein he wants a defined pair is at the centre back. That's why he indeed prefers Luke Shaw sometimes over Lindelof, because he wants
Yeah,
that left-footed centre back at LCB. He has that vision. He has that philosophy. So and Maguire resurgence has come at the same time. So it's almost like that Maguire position is the only position that they're fighting for. He would only play Varane at the RCB position, and that Maguire is overperforming. So I don't think it's
that's
the third choice, fourth choice with him. I think it's the first and the second choice at the RCB position with him. So yeah, I
that's a
mean,
good
you'd
point.
have to and see Sancho, perfect. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Go get out of my club. You know, I
Yeah,
mean,
he's
look at
leaving.
this. Like,
He's
by
leaving
what
in
he what has
January
he
anyways.
achieved in his career, man? You can't say sorry. We've all seen Chak De India, right? They eventually all say sorry to Shah Rukh Khan at the end of the
Yeah.
half or something when they want to play, right? This guy
So you're
doesn't want
telling
to play.
me
This guy's
this
partying
Tinka
around, still
Gunda
partying
is
with
ETH for sure.
singers, with musicians. Yeah,
So
absolutely. Oh, absolutely. There has to be one Gunda, and that is my guy, my manager.
that's a good point. I mean, because what I felt personally, I mean, I'm not a United fan, but looking from the outside of things, number of players having issue, and he's particularly pinning out players. Maybe it doesn't really work in a team environment because maybe you have to deal with players certainly in a different fashion. That's what I felt because when you're a player who's much more accomplished. Now that thing happened with Ronaldo. Now that thing happened with possibly. Varane. Okay, Rashford thing I understand because I feel Rashford is someone who's really not stepped up. Let's be honest. I mean, the guy is earning 320K a week. If you're earning 320K a week, you have a certain bit of accountability to step up and do the job. Defensive work rate has been poor. There are some phases which he comes before his contract extensions where he really goes on to perform and he drops down so bad. So I really don't get the Rashford case because he's one of those players who's never reached there. He gets performs in phases and he just blows out there. For me, one player I'm really looking forward to see is how Hoyland develops as a player because he's very exciting in my opinion. And obviously, you have Garnacho who's done well so far for you guys. I mean, he's been phenomenal in my opinion. I mean, whatever opportunities he's gotten, now he's a starter in your team. He's done a good job. But having said that, how do you see the future of United from here on? Do you see more signings in the centre back position? Do you see a Marcus Rashford being sold anytime soon?
Oof. It's the question, like, 7 crore ka prashn ho sakta hai ye, because I don't know who can answer this, but you've sort of dumped it down a bit and you've asked specifics. So I think yeah, maybe I won't be surprised if I see a couple of centre backs again come in. We have Lisandro, we have Maguire, who looks a bit. See, Maguire was player of the month, but he was player of the month because we were defensive, right? I have nothing against him. I've been consistently maintaining my view on him. He's one of the best centre backs in the world if you're defending. You're West Ham, you're Everton, you are Leicester, you are Gareth Southgate's England. He comes in before any centre back in the world. You give me Virgil van Dijk, you give me Ruben Diaz, I'd still take Maguire if you're defending. If you're sitting in a low block, you have to have headability. He has probably one of the best defensive headers. He doesn't use
Yeah,
it quite well in offensive terms, but climbing on top of people's shoulders, he does it the best. I really love him. But
yeah,
when we want to play a game like we did against Chelsea, yes, he was fantastic, but his immobility, his pace while turning, it's still a big question mark. And these are traits that you can't really develop, right? Like एक कार्ड है फीफा पे, उसकी 45 पेस है, तुम उसको ट्रेन कर करके 50-55 कर दोगे. You can't change it to 85-90.
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
that's that's the issue for me. So you have Martinez, you have him, you probably have Varane leaving, you have Johnny Evans stay or go anyway. So you might see a couple of centre backs coming in, maybe a centre back paired with a right back who can play centre as well. So something
Yeah.
like that. And yeah, I mean, we might need a striker, a winger, or something like that. And
Yeah, I'm hearing Thibaut
Rashford's
Werner link ups to United as well. I don't know how far that's
hopefully
true,
not,
but
yeah. Hopefully not.
but I
Hopefully
still
not.
think Thibaut
Hopefully not.
Werner it's going to be better choice. I'll tell you why. Now, a lot of people say, look at his stats, it says goals, not great for Chelsea, but I really think he can fit into a team like United with Eric Ten Hag. And he could do a lot of off the ball work, which maybe Eric Ten Hag would
Yeah.
want to do from him than maybe what you're getting with the Rashford and Anthony at this point. Because for me, Anthony has been an utter disappointment as well, whatever he might do now in his coming days. But Anthony doesn't give me the confidence as an Anthony which you wanted in your team. And he's not fitting into the system or he's not fitting into Premier League, in my opinion. I mean, he's off the ball
Yeah.
movements have been bad. He's losing the ball a lot more. Then you can't play Bruno in the wide of the park. He's been absolutely bad when you play him wide of the park. Bruno is at absolute best when you play him in center of the park, and that's proven. I mean, you don't have to talk about. There's no debate on that. So Anthony will
I
have to
mean,
step up, and that's one thing for me.
that's the thing, right? Right, like not just in terms of cutting in, but in every term, like he's been one-dimensional, and that's the problem when you have so many young wingers, right? Like we see Garnacho, we see Anthony, right? It's almost like they've been drilled because they've been playing out on the wing and these academy games. They don't really teach you much about it. You stay wide, you stay all of that. We've seen many a times, right? Regulon whipped in a lot of balls, Shaw whipped in a lot of balls, Dallo whipped in a lot of balls. These wingers, they're not gambling, getting into the box. They're pretty one dimensional in their right. They'd stay wide, they'd either shoot, they'd either pass. That's a different thing. But you give seasoned campaigners like how should I say, Raheem Sterling, right, for that matter, right? He plays out on the wing, but he gambles. He's a goal scoring winger.
Yeah,
Of course, at City his stats are overhyped because it was City. But still, like he's a gambler. He gets in. You have Mohamed Salah. Yes, Mohamed Salah runs and he scores those beauties, but he scores those tap-ins. You have 100 goals of Salah, 60 are tap-ins, 60 are scruffy goals. How many scruffy goals has Garnacho scored? Has
yeah,
Martial scored? Has Rashford scored? Has Anthony scored? They score beauties, which is good on the eye, but that's not sustainable. You can't score 25
mm,
beauties a season. You need to
Absolutely.
get 10, 15 of those dirty goals every season.
Absolutely. But let's just now come quickly to the games which we have in our hand this week. The biggest one is obviously Aston Villa versus Arsenal, which is later tonight. How do you see now? There's a Liverpool Crystal Palace match which will get underway in like a couple of minutes from now. But having said that, let's look into this big game, right? Aston Villa was Arsenal and United was a Bournemouth to start with. Aston Villa, if they can get a result here, I think it's going to really turn the season around, and that's going to be dangerous for all the other teams as well. Because then Aston Villa will start believing we have taken down a City, we have taken down Arsenal, who can possibly stop us?
Absolutely, if they do something right here, right, and with the mannerism of what they did against City, it's going to be a big statement. It's almost going to certify them as proper top four contenders, right? Of course, it's almost been half a season and they're still there. But if they do it yet again, 2 weeks in a row, wow, it's going to be a big statement. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see. It's today. It's Unai Emery's old club against him. So that's going
Yeah,
to add a bit of a spice as well because he was really disregarded at that club. So his has come back pretty strongly. United, it's a mixed bag. You'd probably you could put three balls right inside a pouch and you could probably pick one. It'll be an equal game, a dominant game, or a dominant game from Bournemouth. Anyone, 1/3 का probability of anything. So let's see
yeah,
who turns up because at least last season we had Old Trafford as a
yeah,
fortress. This season, anything of that sort is gone as well. So interesting
absolutely.
to see how that turns up, man.
Interestingly, not interesting for Manchester City as well. They've not had the best of seasons. Now all of a sudden, Rodri has been. I never knew Rodri could be such a pivotal part of this team. And whenever Rodri has not played, this team has not performed even half of it. And not
Yeah.
having De Bruyne has also affected the team to a certain extent. Now, if you look back at it, you're missing that midfield of a De Bruyne, a Gundogan, which you had last season, where you are much more versatile. You had players who could make in behind runs. You could have a player who could support Rodri and John Stones in the middle of the park as well. So that's really gone missing. How big a game is it for City as well against Luton Town? Because they've not really gotten those winning ways. They've got a couple of draws against Liverpool, Tottenham, and a loss against Aston Villa. They'll want to keep their motor started now from here on because this is the most important part of the season, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's a good thing. It's probably one of the best opponents they could have asked right now, right? Like at the time that they are facing, all of these. I won't say troubles, right? We've seen too many of these in Guardiola's era, so I don't really usually micro judge or micro analyze all of these 1 game or 2 3 game
Yeah,
trends with Guardiola. You zoom out and then you see the stat padding he's done over the last 6 years. So then you probably put into perspective that 6 साल बिना किसी रुकावट के you can't go. And yeah, everything's been said before. Yeah, they've won 2 Premier Leagues, now they'll have a drop down. Yeah, they've won this, now they'll have a. Yeah, they've won the Champions League. Yeah, they've won the treble. Yeah, they've won the Premier League 3 times. Nothing. All of these apply. Of course, they apply for everyone except Guardiola. I'm a big fan. I'm probably one of the only people in the world who could be such big fans of United, Sir Alex, and Guardiola at the same time because I,
yeah,
I just feel that, right? Being fan of one, usually you tend to disregard the other. Not
yeah,
disregard, but still sort of minimize the achievements of each other. But I don't. I just feel the way he is. He is probably one of the sole reasons as to why English football had to revolutionize. You
yeah,
saw, मतलब रोजगार चला गया of people like Sam Allardyce and who's that guy, Mark Hughes and ये सब इन सब लोग की job
yeah,
नौकरी चली गई. They've been shifted to the championship, to the second third division.
yeah,
You've had more international managers. You've had the likes of Marcelo Bielsa. Of course, Conte is a defensive minded
yeah,
manager, but he's still one of those animated guys. You've had
yeah,
you've had as I said, Bielsa coming in. You've had all of these international exposure managers.
yeah.
Pochettino, of course, was there, but yeah, getting in the
True.
big jobs here and there. So probably one of the sole reasons as to why Premier League went from that gritty to gritty plus attacking. Now it's still one of those fast,
Absolutely.
hard-hitting leagues, but it's still sort of changed. And Guardiola has been one of the biggest. I still remember after the first season, oh, he can't do it here. Yeah, this is not your Barcelona. This is not your Spain. You don't have MSN. Blah blah blah. Oh, spending 220 on fullbacks. Why didn't you buy two strikers for 100? Blah blah blah. He knows the way around, man. He's just too good for all of these things. I still believe
Yeah.
you guys will win the league there. Pains me to say, but
I'm
it's
not sure
just
about the
true,
league,
man.
but this time it looks like a harder task. But having said that, one of the most exciting, I think we have a question as well. Will or Newcastle to win the league is the opinion which Prakash has given.
अरे
If that happens,
भाई
that could be insane scenes. But we have to talk about Spurs versus Newcastle because Newcastle and Spurs both are coming off losses, but both have been very exciting, as we mentioned earlier. How do you see this game pan out if you look in the context of things? Because this is a very important game, and also Chelsea Everton, because Chelsea, they have to now start move have a move on as well, because they have been, you can't take excuse for too long being a mid-table team all of a sudden.
Absolutely, and that's the problem with transition seasons, right? I just saw Reece James, right? When he's the club captain, he's Cobham's graduate, right? Which was that goal? I think it was the second goal, right? McTominay ka goal check ho raha tha, right? If the a VAR check was going on for the second goal, and Bruno and Reece James were laughing, and Bruno, of course, he has the right to laugh. His team is playing well, yo. Reece James was just laughing and having a chat till the time the check was going on. If your team is almost down 2-1, right? It's just pending on a VAR check. You're in the situation of a Chelsea. You can't laugh. He just seems so relaxed, right? Okay, ki to goal pada hai. We've seen all of this before. Another 3 points gone because there is no expectation on them this season. They have a free pass. Even if Pochettino finishes
Yeah,
14th, he won't be sacked.
yeah.
He's in and around the relegation zone. That'll be embarrassing. But 13th, 14th, he won't be sacked. There's no expectation for them to even finish in the Conference League, which is a shame, a shambles, right? I still remember Eric Ten Hag पे बोला जा रहा था, oh, Champions League football this season and then push on for the title next season, maybe a trophy. There's nothing of those sorts on Pochettino, which is quite surprising. So yeah, I think they're very comfortable the place they are, which is going to be a very hard task for him to then undo next season. So
I
let's
mean,
see
I
how
don't know
that
why
goes on,
there's a lot
man.
of complacency in that team, to be honest. And you mentioned about that particular gesture by
Exactly.
Reece James. I know if I'd be wrong saying this, but I have to say that I see that from a lot of these English players in the recent past. A lot of them are
हाँ,
extremely
बिल्कुल,
complacent in the ball.
absolutely,
There are few is exception. Harry
absolutely.
Kane, Declan Rice, I'd put them. Even to an extent, I'll say Saka has been excellent. Foden maybe there and there, but a lot of them. Mason Mount, I can pick up names. Mason Mount, Jadon Sancho, Rashford, a lot of them. A lot of them have been extremely poor and thereabouts. Even Trent, for an example, even certain times he's been complacent as well. And a lot of the English stars, I know they don't get a lot of brunt of things because English media don't go after them. English media goes after the players who are non-English, even if you don't do well in Premier League. So they get to get saved every weekend and wake out. But these players need to step up their game, and they can't get hidden away because they are English players as well.
Yeah, very well pointed. And this has been a long time sort of going on with this English player thing, right? And even today, I saw an article. I mean, I can't believe the level that they go to sort of support. They're saying that oh, Rashford's performances, this and that, because he can be pretty moody after a defeat because he cares so much for the club. So that brings in some negativity towards his shoulders. And it's like you're really defending the negativity because he cares too much for the club. It's just insane the levels these guys
There
go
was
to.
another
So
PR on Jadon
yeah,
Sancho and why he's still in shape even after not playing. I mean, that was
yeah,
ridiculous when I read that because how do you support a player who's really come out there and criticize a club and saying that I want to leave, I'm not part of the WhatsApp group. I mean, the PR which is run by a lot of them is insane, and I think we as Indians we don't get to witness a lot of these news articles because we're away from it. But if you're in England, you'd know that the PR run by these players, the narrative they create is insane. They get away with a lot of these things. But yeah, Antariksh, how do you see the table change finally, at the end of game week 16? How do you see this table change? And from here on, how do you expect teams to go up and come down?
yeah. See, top six, big clashes in and around. Every game seems to be like something that could reshuffle the pack up there. So it's going to be important for Arsenal to hold their ground, even if they do get a draw here. That could still be a bit of a decent result for them. Liverpool, of course, would try to march on. Aston Villa, as I said, right.
Yeah.
So the top four, five, six, they've pretty good things going on. Newcastle would
Mhm.
also like to bounce back, and we should not forget, right? West Ham and Brighton are just there and thereabouts.
Yeah.
So they could be very well 2-3 games into 2-3 game weeks into the picture.
Yeah.
They could be a part of fifth place Champions League here and there. Let's see how that goes. And and
Yeah.
and down the table, Everton getting out of the relegation zone in just 2 weeks. Good
Yeah.
signs. Let's see about their 10-point deduction. If it reverses itself, they could be a part of the top 10 here and there. So
Yeah.
yeah, and Sheffield United, Chris Wilder's back. Nottingham Forest apparently is Steve Cooper is in the last chance saloon going on. So
Yeah.
yeah, we could see a few
Bournemouth has had a
faces
good run
change.
so far in this last few games. I think Bournemouth is a very interesting addition into the mid-table. I believe if they can get that
Absolutely.
push from here on, because I still think it's a very open table early on. You see a lot of teams drop points, especially towards the bottom, and I'm very upset at Burnley, to be very honest. With the kind of run they had in the championship, they've not been able to convert even half of it, like even 0.1% of what they've been able to do. So that's very bad, especially the style of football they played as well. I know it's obviously the comparative difference is there with the quality, but one team I'm very disappointed is Burnley, but I hope they get out of relegation zone there. But on that, I think Bournemouth is very exciting to watch. Fulham, or what a game that was! Fulham versus Liverpool. They deserved a draw there. It was all good. I mean, 4-3 result, but I really would have loved to see a Fulham get a draw there. So yeah, that's about it from us, especially when we talk about this week's Premier League and how things stand. Thank you, Antariksh, once again for joining. If you guys really did enjoy this video, do not forget to share and subscribe to our channel. And if you are a person who's into analytics and you want to know more about numbers and you want to call shots sitting in one of the bigger organizations or in your favorite football club, check out our courses with Mad About Sports. So have a good day, all of you, and see you all very soon. Take care. Bye bye.